Bite-sized.
Welcome to Gaikoku Gamers. I'm Darryl Benson, and I'm here to talk to you today about Bayonetta 2. So, Bayonetta 2, the reviews have been pouring in, and, well, with the exception of places like Polygon, they're all extremely positive, and that's fantastic. It definitely seems like it deserves a score, and it definitely seems to include some things that I think Nintendo fans are going to really appreciate. Kind of like the Star Fox content that they had in there that I was all excited about last time we talked. But the videos aren't necessarily to do, this video at least I should say, isn't necessarily to do with the greatness of the game when it eventually comes out, when we get to play it, or how much I'm looking forward to it, or how much you're looking forward to it. This is going to be about how much it will sell. And this is kind of the problem that I think Platinum and Nintendo are going to have right now, is that I don't see it selling at all. And I'm not trying to just be mean or anything like that, but I'm being honest. You know, part of being a fan of a company is admitting also when things aren't going well, and trying to tell the company that you admire that things need to change. And as great as Bayonetta looks, I think it's almost a little too late. Bayonetta's been kind of tooted since the beginning of the Wii U, and a lot's changed since the Wii U was first announced. A lot of things negatively, frankly. Right now, we're basically looking at a release schedule of no third-party games coming up. And frankly, after Project Cars, which isn't until next year for the Wii U. And that, to be fair, Project Cars was not pushed back because they're doing a Ubisoft thing or anything. That was pushed back because the developer is generally trying to make that version good. So I appreciate that. However, as far as disc-based games, I'm not talking indie crap. Whether it's good or bad, I'm just saying. I'm not talking about digital, downloads or anything. I'm talking about stuff you buy at a store. Right now, third-party developers are so far gone from the Wii U that it's over. It doesn't mean the system's dead. It just means that there are no games that are going to be on that system that you'll see on other consoles. And this presents a large problem. I've noticed that a lot of people really want to get Bayonetta 2, but they're just not into Nintendo games. So, therefore, the price tag of $300 or $275 if it's on sale, or even $200 refurbished, plus the cost of Bayonetta 2, it's just too much for them. And before you jump on a hate bandwagon, imagine a company that you don't like. Okay, like for instance, for me, I was never really into that Atari systems. I thought Atari was kind of boring compared to Nintendo. At least in that time, they were, because the 2600 was pretty much dead, and their subsequent systems really weren't that great, and it ended on kind of a downer with the Jaguar, which I absolutely hated that system. I owned one of those things, and I just couldn't stand it. But imagine a company that you didn't like release a console. Now, if you don't like that brand, you're probably not going to like their games. But then let's just say, out of a blue moon, they get an IP that was on a console that you did like, say Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo, and they took it. So let's just say somehow Atari got a hold of Mario, right? Okay, and Atari made their first console in like fucking 2 decades, and they released it, and they're like, guess what? And we bought Mario from Nintendo, and here you go. All the other games you don't care about, but they have Mario. So do you spend all that money on a new system just for that one game? And it might hurt, but the answer is no. And I think that this is Bayonetta's biggest problem. It can be great, it can be awesome, it can be fantastic, it can be something that people want to play. But if you're not into Nintendo stuff, and you're more interested in a system at the very least that I can do a little bit of everything. Even if you like Nintendo stuff, the Wii U does not offer everything that's out there. And technically no system does. I'm not talking about exclusives. You know, every system at the very core, the very base, should have third-party support. That means that for the most part, unless it's only on a couple systems, you're going to get nearly every single third-party release. Now, a lot of people make fun of the Nintendo GameCube. And living through it when I was in college back at the time, it was hard being a Nintendo GameCube owner. And I look back and, man, I didn't know how good I had it. Because I remember being really disappointed that games like Star Wars Battlefront didn't come to it. And it was actually that series that made me get an Xbox and a PS2, because I started branching out. I still thought the GameCube was the best. In fact, I still think the GameCube is the best system of that generation. But it was because of that lack of third-party support that I eventually branched elsewhere. And to be fair, the GameCube actually had really good third-party support for a Nintendo console. You look back, and most of the games that were out as far as multiplats go were on the GameCube. All of EA's games, all of Ubisoft's games, all of Activision's games. There were different developers back then, Atari, blah, blah, blah. They all had their stuff on the GameCube as well as the original Xbox and PS2. In fact, third-party-wise, there wasn't much missing. There really wasn't. And I remember it felt abysmal back then. Now, boy, the Wii U, I can't honestly think of a system that's had this hard of a time with third-party support in recent history. I would maybe say Dreamcast, but I don't want to say that because, in fact, I think the Dreamcast had better third-party support, because they at least had SNK really heavily, and they at least had Capcom really heavly. And they had kind of like that Neo Geo feel to it, where, you know, you got like a lot of fighting games, a lot of quirky games from Sega mixed with the fighting games. And it was kind of like, for me at least, like this ultimate system of that. They didn't have, you know, Electronic Arts, sure, but it was still pretty good. They had Acclaim games, which at the time they were big, and they weren't missing everything, but they were definitely lacking in a lot of third-party support. But man, I think the Wii U is the worst one of the lot that I can honestly think of. Unless we start getting to obscure consoles like 3DO and that type of stuff. As far as major consoles that had major success, the Wii U is pretty much taking a cake right now for that, and that's not good. And I fear that the once every other month, once every month, once every 3 months, depending on, you know, how it works out with Nintendo, release schedule for their titles isn't going to be enough. Because, again, you have to remember that not every single fan, even if they're a Nintendo hardcore fan, is going to want every single game. So, if you only want Bayonetta and Smash Brothers, you don't care about Toad, and you don't care about Hyrule Warriors, that's 2 games in a 4-month span from here to January. Not good. And, you know, we're starting to look at sales charts. Smash Brothers for the 3DS in Europe debuted at spot number 7. Which, I'm sorry, but I thought Smash Brothers would be, like, top on the list. They didn't even knock off FIFA. I mean, I know soccer is really popular in Europe, and rightfully so. It's a fantastic game, but, I mean, really? And what's even worse than that is that now it's dropped off past the top 10. It's not even on the top 10. And it's only its second week out. So, you know, these second-party games, like with Platinum, and these first-party games like Smash Brothers, you know, these are fantastic, and I like these little collaborations they've been trying to tie in with other developers like Platinum or Koei for Dynasty Warriors, and that's great. But I think Nintendo needs to stop worrying about getting these second-party exclusives or third-party exclusives, and maybe just try to at least just get some general third-party support. And, you know, I don't really have an answer for it. I don't know what they have to promise these guys in order to bring it, but they need to get EA back, and they need to get Ubisoft back, and they need to get Activision back. Because while gamers like you and me might hate Call of Duty and those type of games, you know, unfortunately, that is what the new generation likes to play. And when they're selling like 11 billion fucking, you know, copies of Call of Duty, you have to listen. And if you don't have that on your system, you're gonna suffer. So, I really do, genuinely though, congratulate the Platinum team for the success. But as we've seen in Japan, with pitiful sales for that game, I just don't see it happening here. If a game that quirky does not sell in Japan, it's not going to sell here. So, especially with the lack of third-party support on a system that most people don't own. So that's kind of sucky. So, hey, if you do disagree with me, that's more than fine. Please leave us a comment below. If you do agree with me, leave a comment below too. We've really been appreciating your subscriptions and comments and ratings, so please go ahead and do all three. And once again, this is Darryl Benson, and I shall talk to you guys tomorrow.